Welcome to Dakotas Hometownj podcast. My name is Dakota and I am your host. I'm a lifelong resident of Harrison, Arkansas, and many of you may know me from my time at the Boone County Heritage Museum. This podcast, in partnership with the Boone County Heritage Museum, will bring you bite-sized episodes of local Boone County history to spice up your day. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Dakotas Hometownj podcast. This podcast brought to you by the Boone County Heritage Museum. The Boone County Heritage Museum is located at 124 South Cherry Street in Harrison, Arkansas, just 2 blocks off the Harrison Square. You can find the museum at bchrs.org. That again is bchrs.org. You can also find the museum on Facebook at Boone County Heritage Museum. To get a hold of the museum, you can call 870-741-3312. That number again is 870-741-3312, or at bchm@windstream.net. That again is bchm@windstream.net. As you heard, my name is Dakota, and this is the first episode of Dakotas Hometownj podcast. In this episode, I will be explaining who I am, what I am doing, and how this will work, as well as give a brief history of Harrison's Masonic Lodge, Boone Lodge number 314. So let's start off with me. I've been volunteering at the museum since May of 2022. I've given countless tours, helped countless people in research and genealogy, and have been a part of the redesign of the museum. I am also a Civil War reenactor and a member of Harrison's Masonic Lodge. Now, for the podcast. As of now, we will have no time structure. Multiple episodes may be uploaded in 1 week, and there may be 2 or 3 weeks between episodes. This is because the museum is run by volunteers and is financed by donations and sponsorships, which limit our abilities. If you would like to sponsor or make a donation to the museum, please email bchm@windstream.net. That again is bchm@windstream.net. If you would like to sponsor the podcast, please email dakotasHometown@gmail.com. That is DAKOTAHOMETOWN@gmail.com. All sponsorships and donations go to keeping the museum and this podcast running. Now, on to the episode.
1983 at the Boone County Historical Society's Museum, and we're going to be recording the life story of Dr. Kirby and Dr. Henry Vance Kirby is who we are going to be recording the life story of. Dr. Kirby, you told me you were born the 3rd of April, 1908 in Harrison, Boone County, Arkansas. And on June 21st, 1936, you married Elva Clarence Hudson. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Do you remember your first grade teacher?
Yeah, I started out with Miss Tranum.
Tranum?
This room right over here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, right across the hall there. And I developed typhoid fever and dropped out. So I didn't go to school very long. And then the next following term, Miss Delia Bean, which was later married Sam Gaston, who was prosecuting attorney here for a while. He has 2 sons, Sam and Ben, which Sam is a physician, X-ray specialist in Joplin, Missouri, and Ben is a surgeon in Muskogee, Oklahoma. And she was my first teacher. I consider her my first teacher.
Where did you live? What street did you live on when you started school?
When I started school, I lived on the 2nd block south on Walnut Street.
You're in Harrison?
Yes, it's right on the south bank of Crooked Creek, which is now Minnie Harris Park.
What color was your house?
We had a white frame house with an open underpinning, and didn't have any electricity. We did have one chimney. It was an L-shaped house. Had one chimney right at the angle of the L, which served the heating stove for the living room on the west, and dining room on the corner of the southwest corner.
Did you have your own room?
No, I didn't. We had 2 bedrooms, and they were on the north end of the L-shaped building, and of course we had no fans, or we did have screens, and we didn't have any running water in the angle of the L. We did have a cistern, and the kitchen was on the east end of the south portion of the L. And it had a porch on the south side, with the entrance from the south, and then a door that went out on the porch from the cistern that led to the east steps to the building. And outside of that, we did have a woodshed, which was a wooden building, and there was Daddy did have a barn, which is situated about where the picnic building is in the park there now, and it was sitting close to the south boundary, which was bounded by part of the land of Ms. Wilson. They had up on the west portion of it, they had their family barn. And Daddy did have some, I think at that time, on most of the old Woodland Heights hillside there where the highway goes up and around. And he was planning on building a home up on top of that nose of that hill. And so he had a friend that that did have a retarded child about 12 years old. So Daddy sold one of the lots up there to him to build a house on, and he built his house up there before Daddy did. And Mama, then she threw a fit because said she wasn't about to go up there and babysit with that 12-year-old retarded child. So with that, he sold that property there on that hill, and it was the whole hillside there, and bought 11 acres of timberland, which was down by Oak Street and on the west, and by West South Street on the north, or 1 block on the west end of it. And then it did, part of it did water on Hickory Street. And it wound up on the south was Billy Moore's property. He had a cow pasture, horse pasture there. At that down Jefferson Highway, came down Wilson Street down to Oak Street. And it came from the south on I guess it might be Tamarind, I don't know what it is now. Anyway, the street that's east of the Highland School there, that was the Jefferson Highway used to go down through that what we call Parkinson Tower. At least if there was 3 people in the Model T Ford, one of them had to get out and walk. It wasn't so steep that Model T couldn't do. That was our outlet to, I guess, civilization.
And all of this was about the same time that you were in the first grade?
Yeah, a lot of it about it. Anyway, that's around about the time I was in the first grade. And we didn't have any running water, and we'd always, we didn't take a bath but once a week. And Saturday night, we heat up water on the kitchen stove and go in the kitchen and had a number 3 tub there, big tub, and we start out with the youngest and wind up with the oldest. And,
how many were there in your family?
well, when I started school, there was at that time there was 4 of us.
And you were the oldest?
No, I had a sister 3 years older than I was, and then I had a sister 15 months younger than I was, and then I had a sister that was born in 1912.
What was your oldest sister's name?
Lillian.
Lillian?
Lillian was Lillian. They left out the middle with the double L. And she was she was a smart one of our family.
What did she look like?
She was relatively short and what we call a round face, and curly hair, and fair-featured, brown hair, and she was very active, very quick.
If you had to describe her personality in one word, what would you say about her?
Well, that's, I guess I'll have to pass that. But Lillian went to finish school here in 1923.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she played basketball. She was a star basketball player. She was short and small, but very quick. And so she was on the Harrison High School basketball team, girls basketball team. And she graduated in 1923. That's when we had all of our railroad problems here. Q trucks ruled, and Daddy was not a Q truck. So they were boycotting him about that time. And so my sister, then they found out that she was, that 2 of them tied when they gave her to the other girl. So she wasn't valedictorian. She did go to college and got a degree in English and university and taught English in some colleges. And she married a fellow which was named Harbaugh. He was from Leslie. They were very intelligent sort of people. And
Let's check this now. What about your young?
It was Cleveland, Harbaugh. He got a degree from the University of Arkansas in chemistry, and went to Penn State for more study in chemistry. And while they were up there at Penn State, they did have a daughter. And when the daughter was 3 weeks old, she was found dead in the bed, probably a crib death. And anyway, their marriage wasn't successful. And she got her divorce and later married Gene Browning, who was organic chemistry. Doctor had a doctorate degree in organic chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
and he worked for the timber company in Shelton, Washington, for several years as chemist, checking their their wood to see if they were able to make rayon out of it at the beginning of the rayon era. And so then the company that had companies all over the world, and he finally became the troubleshooter for many of the companies in the world, Japan and so forth. And he would go and stay until he got the problem solved, even if it takes 6 months.
What was your younger sister's name?
Well, my youngest sister was Eleanor Kirby. Eleanor was named after Eleanor Fellows. Fellows, at that, when she was born, was the one that operated the light company. And they lived up on the hill on Vine Street above the light company up there, right across the street from Catacomb, across the street from where Joe Miller's home was, or Jimmy Miller, now Nathan Miller's home was, and Jimmy Miller lives in the home now. But the fellows came down from Springfield, and evidently he was a very capable fellow. He had the first buggy-wheeled automobile that was here.
What year was that?
I guess around 11, 12.
And Eleanor was 15 months younger than you are.
No, Hazel was 15 months younger.
Hazel was 15 months younger than you
Yeah,
are.
and then Eleanor was born, I think, in 1912.
1912. And what did Hazel look like?
Hazel was, she was rather, children-in-law seemed to like her very well. She was fairly capable. She didn't have a great deal of confidence in herself for some reason later on in life. And she graduated from high school here and then went to university and didn't get a degree. And in 1968, she finally got her degree from Arkansas University.
Well, what did she look like?
She was about 5'4", and walked with a rather quick step, and seemed to be happy most of the time. Had very, very kinky hair. One time up there when we lived on 804 West South Street, and Saddox there to the west of us had a cow pasture. People used to drive their cows. Everybody had their private dairy then. They used to drive the cows by our front door there. But it was John Ed Watkins, right across the street on the north side of the west South Street. You got into it wasn't a hornet, but the yellow jacket. Out in the yellow jacket's nest. And they were gotten after him pretty pertly, and he ran up on our house was the closest one. He ran up on our house and run chasing him and up on the front porch. And they did find the yellow jacket until the next morning they found it in Hazel's hair.
Oh.
She was very thick.
Really?
And she married a fellow named West up near Joplin, Missouri. And he had an ambition to become a Boy Scout director of some sort. So she married him in 1933, and they had an old second-hand Chevrolet car, and they took off to the west. The northwest part of the nation did not have much of Boy Scout force. Went over by Twin Falls, Idaho, and stayed there a while, and I think they were sheltered for a while. finally moved on to Tacoma. They did not, the Boy Scout organization didn't have any money, and so they didn't pay him anything, and what he lived on was what the people gave him in the community. And he was very pioneered the Boy Scout movement in Washington and Oregon and Idaho up in there. So
there was Lillian, and then you,
and then Hazel.
and then Hazel, and then Eleanor.
Eleanor.
And did you have any brothers?
Well, this Hazel is the only one living now. She came to visit me here last month and stayed a week. Her husband died a few years ago, and she has a daughter up there at Edmonds, Washington, and on the banks of the Puget Sound there, which she lives about a mile from her and has her own condominium. And she did have 2 children, and this one child lives there. So she and I are the only ones left out of the family. And we spoke of Eleanor. Eleanor was, I guess, a happy-go-lucky one of the family. She had the ability of being able to, if she ever heard a song or sung, why she could repeat it. And she had that sort of ability, and she married a Charles Finger Jr., which is his father. Pardon me. Mm-hmm. His father was a man who was in Illinois, was president of a railroad, and he retired when he was 50 years old. And he did some traveling in South America and so forth. He wound up over at Fayetteville, where he did writing. He wrote some parts which were published in the Saturday Evening Post. He was a concert pianist, and his daughter is now married to Judge Lepler, who is well known over there at the university. He used to fly back and forth between New York and Federal and teach the federal judges. And so he was, Charles Jr., he was interested in soil conservation, and he was the state soils man for a while. He was a very likable sort of fellow. And before Eleanor married him, she taught school here in Harrison. And Dr. Joe Bennett was one of her pupils, and everyone seemed to like her very well. She got along well with the students.
But you had no brothers?
Then, yes, when came along in 1917, my mother had Ben Kirby. His name is Leander Bender Kirby, Jr. L-E-N-D-E-R, B-E-N-D-E-R, Kirby Jr. And that was my father's name. And he always had a lot of friends, and always well liked by nearly everybody. He's a very smart sort of kid. I think Mama did pretty well in raising him. And one day he decided to leave home. So he's 8 years old, so Mama said, okay. So she fixed him lunch and pallet and a bag and so forth to leave. So one, 2 or 3 hours, he's back home.
Smart boy.
So anyway, he went to the University of Arkansas. He thought he wanted to be a drug salesman, a traveling drug salesman. So I was So when he was in university, he was up there for about 4 years, and he had a grade average of 0.3. He didn't get
0.3.
and he didn't get a degree. He got more out of the social life of university and knew how to get along with people. So he came back after he went 4 years. They wouldn't take him back. So he came up to. He stayed here in Harrison and lived. I was living with my mother at that time, practicing medicine, and so he drove me one year. I practiced. I do my house calls at night and keep my office open during the day, 6 days a week. So Ben was my driver, and one time I got him come in and give rips from chloroform while I was giving delivering a baby, so I guess that was probably his first anesthetic over here at Lead Hill. But anyway, the war began to brew. Ben began to see it, and he saw himself as a buck private in the rear ranks. So one day he came to me and says, "Henry," says, "if I could get in medical school, I'd go to medical school." Well, the next day I had him down to the University of Arkansas Medical School at Little Rock, and we went in, and I had the dean of it was a friend of mine. I'd become befriended in him in the medical society, and so I took him in there, and I first thought his name was Nicholson. I can't, that's not it either. But anyway, it was one of those little common names we had around here. And he took Ben's transcript and saw that .03 grade average, and he says, "There's lots of boys in Arkansas that like to enter medical school here that they have a lot better grade averages than this." And Ben then spoke up right quickly and said, "If you take me in, and if I make below a B in any time, I'll drop out." So the dean pushed the button on the desk there, and here came his secretary. He moved out that thing for Ben to sign, so he signed it, and he was in medical school. Now that could not happen these days.
Did he graduate from medical school?
So in 1944, he graduated from medical school, and he went down to Charity Hospital in Little Rock to intern in Charity Hospital. And while he was there, Dr. Adriani, which is the head or the chief or the papa, I don't know what to call it, of anesthetics in the nation, had a wife who was an alcoholic, and she had a bout of alcoholism and was taken into the hospital, and she became one of Ben's patients. Somehow or other, during his 4 years in the university, he learned what people were like, and he knew people. I think he got more out of his social life in university probably more than he could out of his books. But anyway, Dr. Adriani then became attached to my brother Ben. And he told him that if he would, next year, the following year, he would take an internship under him, he would make an anesthesiologist out of him.
Mm.
So he continued to be able to handle Dr. Adriani's uh, wife. And while he was working with Dr. Adrian, he did the work of course, Dr. Adrian initiated it, and Ben did the work on spinal block, or saddle block, which he added glucose or sugar, made the anesthetic heavier, and it dropped down to the bottom end of the spinal cord when it's sitting up, and then just the crotch and mid portion of the body would be anesthetized. The saddle block had become, Ben would go over the whole United States giving lectures on it then. And so Ben stayed with him 2 years, and I believe it's 3 years maybe. And then he went to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to begin practice of anesthesiology. He first wanted to go there, and he did have a partner there when he got there. 2 of them did, and he practiced, I think, 47 years as an anesthesiologist in Baton Rouge. He was an outgoing personality. He knew everybody. He knew how to greet them. He knew how to handle them, and he had lots of friends. And
what did he look like?
he was shorter than I am. I think he was around maybe 5'6" or 7, and he had a round face and brown curly hair, and he had a smile that was contagious, and he just seemed to know how to get along with people.
What did your mother look like?
My mother, she was an 8th Indian, and her grandmother was a half-breed. It came from the northern part of Alabama. And like Dr. John R. Vance's wife. And I think she got a lot of the Indian genes.
Folks, that is all the time we have for today. I hope you have enjoyed. My name's Dakota, and I have been your host. This has been Dakota's Hometown Podcast. If you have enjoyed, please feel free to like and subscribe. If you have any ideas for the show or just like to reach out, you can find me at dakotashometown@gmail.com. That is DAKOTASHOMETOWN @gmail.com.